Our guest speaker today considered himself home the moment he walked into the doors at New Vision Center in 1998. He became a practitioner in 2014 and then moved to Eugene, Oregon in 2016, and yet still hangs his practitioner license here. Because once you're here, you just can't. Just about a year ago, I think it was about a year ago, he made the decision to become a minister and has been attending Holmes Institute in Colorado. And here is the thing about this gentle man. He has a heart of gold. His consciousness runs so deep. I am honored to call him a friend. Please help me welcome Ron Trunell.
What you doing? Some of you that know me know that I'm a huge Barbra Streisand fan. Some stereotypes are true. And as she returned to the concert stage after a 27-year absence, on that New Year's Eve of 1993, she sang, which I will not, I will say, I don't know why I'm frightened. I know my way around here. So as I sat there and started to feel those nerves bubble up, that phrase came to me. So I promised myself that I would share that which was presented to me. So I wish you all luck. I wish you all safety. Being that this is the 5th Sunday of the month, I wanted to do a quick recap in case you missed anything, and hopefully to find that common thread throughout the month. So on week 1, we had Reverend Leslie, who presented a heart of healing. And she talked about the fact that wholeness is our birthright. Wholeness isn't something we earn that has to be gained. It's our birthright. She quoted Ernest Holmes, who said that we are all practitioners of this teaching. We all carry that calling. You would have chosen to do something else on this holiday weekend if you weren't called. Whether or not you choose to become a licensed professional practitioner doesn't change the fact that you're already a practitioner of this teaching. She also told us that it's important that we use our tools. Every Sunday, every class, we talk about the tools. And she introduced, to me anyway, a new phrase: daily, substantial, spiritual practice. You might hear that over and over again. And I invite you to shout it out when you hear it coming. And then on week 2, Reverend Karen brought us embracing belonging. And she reminded us that we are NVC. Sometimes we might say, I'm going to NVC, like it's a place, like it's a building, and it's not. It's each one of us coming together that creates that experience that we call NVC. She said we don't have to put on a show. If you want to, that's okay. But we don't have to. That we will be accepted to the degree that we are self-accepting. And then week 3, Reverend Karen presented I See God in everyone, where she encouraged us to connect from the heart, deep on deep. And what I took away from that is that it's the power of really seeing another, meeting the gaze, seeing beyond this physical stuff we carry around, and seeing spirit. And we experience that to the degree that we allow ourselves to be seen. In week 4, Reverend Leslie brought us choosing gentleness. She talked about how life can feel dark. And she talked about the importance of using our tools and specifically spiritual practice. And when life feels dark, as it does, that's the time to anchor into that spiritual practice that we're comfortable with, that soothes us. And guess what? She was talking about daily, substantial, spiritual practice. And that brings us to here and now. Today in youth church, they're talking about a book called The Bad Seed. The Bad Seed. This seed had a rough beginning to life. Maybe some of us can relate to that. He took on this persona, this belief that he's a bad seed. Maybe he even relishes it a bit. It becomes his identity. And yet there comes a time where that identity no longer serves. And he recognizes he's at choice. He doesn't have to continue day after day to choose to be the bad seed. There's a quote from Ernest Holmes. Let's talk about this really quick. I'm sorry. Struggle and suffering. I don't know about you, but for me, they're like this. I don't always recognize that I'm in struggle, that I'm gripping the rope, that I'm gripping whatever it is that just needs to stop or stay the same. And I suffer. Sometimes it's to that point of not being able to take the suffering anymore, that the willingness to let go starts to arise. So if you hear me using the word struggle, suffering interchangeably, that's why. In my mind, they're very, very connected. Ernest Holmes said, "The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes us to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely, if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that we should ultimately be other than a perfect expression of life." And then there's a shooting. And then there's another shooting. And then there's unrest. There's pain, suffering, rage, anger, lashing out. This needs to stop. Why won't it stop? They need to, all valid feelings, expressions. And yet, we go back to the tools. If you were here on Friday night, you heard the Science of Mind Declaration of Principles read. And it's, as you know, a lot of we believe, not you shall believe. This is what we believe. You're welcome to step in wherever that's comfortable. And one of those is that we believe in the ability to use our minds, our consciousness, to shift conditions. That's the call I want to talk about today. That's the place, I believe, that we build from. And then we go do whatever it is we feel called to do. You know, this glass is water. It's dry here. How quickly I forget in a state where it rains seems endlessly. Look how clear that water is, besides my fingerprints on there. Imagine if I had put a teaspoon of soil at the bottom of this glass. And so it just rested there. And I'm carrying this around. I have to be very careful with this because I know what's going to happen. If you get too close to me, bump me, jostle me, anger me, that's going to happen. The soil was always there. That's my false belief. That's the metaphor I chose to use for this. And we go through our life carrying around the glass. We get really good of knowing how much distance we should keep from people, how to best keep that soil in place. And then there's a world event, a national event. And that starts to happen. If I stood here and tried to look through that, I'd never be able to do it. And yet, that's exactly what I'm doing. When I have these unhealed beliefs, one of mine that continues to come up, and I continue to get invited to work on it, is this sense of unworthiness. When that gets stirred up, everything I see through that glass. It's tough to see spirit in you through the murk. And that's why it's so important that we increase our awareness. We know what is that unhealed business, sounds better than stuff, within us. And it's a call. Is now the time? Is now the time that I have the willingness? Have I held onto the rope long enough? Am I willing to let it go? And what we have to do is we have to align with the truth. When we're staring through the murky glass, we're aligning with that which was never the truth of us. I know intellectually that I'm worthy. People tell me that. I believe them. And it feels like that water gets purified. Feels like it, until something comes up. Turns out there was this little chunk of soil. And there's the invitation. And I wanted to share that because Ernest Holmes talks about healing. I might be jumping out of order, but he talks about the fact that there is no process in healing. Oh, healing and demonstration take place as our minds become attuned to the truth of being. There is no process of healing. But there is generally a process in healing. This process is the time and effort which we undergo in our realization of the truth. Spirit doesn't require that we go through these gyrations to get rid of this stuff. But we do, sometimes, not always. It's entirely possible that the healing occurs like that. Entirely possible. That has not been my experience with this worthiness. I continue to be invited to come back to it, work on it some more. So we align with what's true. And that is where the healing has the opportunity to begin. As we focus on what's true, that which was never true begins to fall away. Begins to fall away. That which we focus on expands. We have to be mindful of what we're focusing on. And we do that individually. We do that individually, daily, substantial, spiritual practice. I'm a quick forgetter. Right? I saw a hand. Right? I have to be reminded. And what I know is that, as I talked about, as I align with that which has always been true, and because it's true for me, it's true for you, it's true for you. It's true for all of us. And so in those times when we're triggered, when we leap to the anger, when we leap to the rage, we remember it has to come back within. I cannot control outward conditions by doing this. And it's not for the lack of trying. Isn't that right, Ken? But when that comes up, we have to be compassionate. There's no need to condemn ourselves. I believe that's the human experience. I remember, I step into it. It feels so good. And then as Howard Thurman said in the reading that I had the privilege of reading Friday night, that it's not always something monumentous. It's the day-to-day grind. It's the dirt from the road. It's the low-level, I think of nuisances that can wear us down. So we have to be mindful. We have to be aware. And we have to be compassionate. It's critical in this community that as we go through this process of daily, substantial, spiritual practice, that we surround ourselves with those that support us, that believe in this as well. They might even nudge us and say, "Is your water a little murky?" Looks like it might be, huh? Have you ever been in a room, you walk into a large room with a lot of people, and you feel a vibe? You walk in, for example, and the vibe is high, it feels positive. I may not know a lot of people, but I feel safe, I feel welcomed. Might feel like I am with my tribe. Have you ever walked into a room and it has a vibe? Something just doesn't feel right. Is it me? Do I belong here? I don't look like them. They don't look like me. Something's off. Whatever it is. The point is that groups, no matter the vibe is good or the vibe scares, that vibe will attempt to invite us in. So if I hang out in that vibe, where I don't feel welcome, I don't feel like I fit in, whatever it is, if I hang into that space long enough, it's easy for me to forget who I am. It's easy for me to forget why I'm here. That's why it's so important to find that group where the vibe fits, where you feel supported, where you feel loved. And once I recognize that truth, so I've moved from the murky, and I'm now choosing to see through the clear. As I recognize that truth, I have to live from that place. I have to live authentically, truthfully, and openly. I mean, come on. How open is this community when the reading invokes Dorothy from Wizard of Oz? That was perfect. That was just perfect. Find your tribe. Let yourself be seen. See. Be compassionate. Focus on daily, substantial, spiritual practice. It's a mantra, man. It really, really is. I don't know about you, but it's easy to say, I meditate every day. Well, okay, but what if Tuesday and Thursday was a quick 2-minute insight timer? I meditated. And sometimes that's what happens. Okay, I have to be compassionate to myself about that. But it's not substantial. I'm missing a key element of that. So we continued to live from the basis of this new idea. And this new idea supports a new form, and the old form begins to dissipate. That which we focus on expands. So I invite you, as you go through this day, this week, the next month, be aware. Be aware of what filter are you looking through. Be aware to know, am I being mindful? Am I being true to who I say I want to be? Listen, because people will tell you. They don't know they're telling you. Many years ago, I had a call from Reverend Michelle, and a congregant lived it out in Ahwatukee like Ken and I did, and this person needed a ride. And I said, great, be happy to do that. And she said, I told her that you come maybe twice a month. There wasn't any judgment in her voice. It was true. But I heard that. And I thought, that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to show up. I want more. I had to move back in, look through life through the clear glass, find the new belief, let go of the old. I talked about needing support, and this community provides tremendous support. But I'm here to tell you, coming on Sundays, viewing on Sundays is part of it. It's an important part. But there's so much more. We can be quick forgetters. Depending on how you count it, there's 6 or 7 days between Sundays. That's a long time. That's a long time. So to support that, there's classes. There's workshops. There's volunteer opportunities. Stay in the room that creates the vibe that feels like home. And you don't have to leave. I mean, at some point you have to leave the building, right? Because they've got to lock it up. But we are NVC. And so even when you get in your car and go off and do whatever is next, NVC is there. That spirit of NVC is present. I feel like I leaned into it, and I've completely lost my place. I think I'm about done. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being that tribe that has continued to let me, and I'll include Ken in that. I don't want to speak for him, but I will. To allow us to continue to step in, to continue to be a part of. To my online friends, I have 2 suggestions. One, if you lean too close to the monitor, make sure you're wearing pants. This could have been so different. It's true. It's true. They know what I'm talking about. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please join me in prayer. In this moment, there is such an abundance of love. And what I know is that this love permeates all that ever has been, all that ever is and all that ever can be, that is the very nature of spirit. That it's ever present, despite any condition, any false belief. I know that the truth is always true. And so on behalf of each one of these beloveds, whether they are seated here in the sanctuary or joining through the online campus, I affirm that we are one. We are divinely, wholly, and completely interconnected, just as we are with every other being, every other face of the divine. And that is our focus. That is the truth. And so I know as each one of us moves forward from this day, from this space, I know that the indwelling Spirit is ever present, ever creating opportunities for the expression of love, for the expression of harmony. And from that place, from that quiet, still voice inside, comes that shift in the consciousness of humanity. And from that place, we hear the call to show up in this world truthfully, authentically, powerfully. And so I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for this moment right here, right now. I proclaim that peace is present, love is here right now. So as this word has been spoken into that universal law, I know that it's done. I know that the truth has always been true and will continue to manifest in the most glorious, most unexpected ways. I see it. I embody it. And so it is.